strange blues. In the night, but during the day. Can you dig it?
Yes, we can. Hey, guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, and...
Gregory Kochery.
Amazing. Finally.
I'd like to give yourself a honk. Yes.
Squirtle.
What can we say?
It's so good to be with you fellas again.
Finally.
It's awesome to see you. So the last time we saw you properly and we got to sit down and have a chin wag was in Denmark.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Where we engaged our inner Viking.
We did.
A couple years ago, maybe?
That was, yes, indeed. I believe it was the lofty days of yesteryear. I don't even know. I can't even remember.
Copenhagen Guitar Show it was.
It was indeed. It was good times. Yeah. We feasted.
We did.
Yes, we did. On many things.
We did. And we had good times. As we do.
The great thing about Greg Koch is the second he opens his mouth or plays the guitar, a large smile beams across the face. Right?
Yeah.
Can you call my wife? No, I'm just kidding. She also agrees. That's why we've been happily married for so many fruitful years. She still finds me somewhat amusing, which is always good. So I always got to up my game. She's a tough crowd. So when I go out of the house, I'm already in training. You know, I've already been, it was like a Olympic thing. And so I'm ready to engage in spirited fun craft. That's not a thing, by the way.
Can we make it a thing?
Indeed. Fun craft!
Okay, we are delighted to welcome Greg and band today. You'll see that there are non-guitar shaped objects in the background, so there will be some jamage at some point.
Jamage.
Which we've just heard, and it sounds spectacularly good. And a real Hammond.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks to Toby, who sat there.
Indeed.
So we're looking forward to hearing that. But so you're on tour.
Yes, we are.
In the UK, and this is the first time you've toured with these fine gentlemen.
Indeed, and you know what's even more amusing is that there's a chain restaurant here called the Toby Carvery, which we've feasted at, and Toby is obviously gets special seating. And what our favorite thing is the dessert bar is called Toby's Final Touch. Something we've used to great effect throughout our excursion through Fair Albion. Toby's Final Touch. Caution, objects hot.
Okay. You know that thing when I said this, literally the second he walked through the door, I could feel these muscles in my jaw, like, haven't been used for a little while. On the subject of which, if you're wondering why Dan looks like Dan's uncle, it's because he shaved his beard off in the spirit of Movember. So that's as much as we need to say about that. It's not necessarily a new look, but it is a look, right?
It's like, it's a sound. It's a look.
Yeah, and I'm doing the 14-year-old self with some hair on the top lip. 6 days.
Nice.
Yeah. Can you remember when you grew your first mustache, Greg?
I don't think I was until it was my 30s, I believe, is when I finally said, you know what, it's time. It's time to grow something around this mug. And it was so. I think I grew a full beard, actually. Yeah. And it was frightening. Kind of embraced my inner Sasquatch. I had really long hair at the time, and so I just thought, let my freak flag fly with some spirited facial hair. The rest was history.
You should follow Greg on Instagram if you don't already, because some of the pictures he posts are truly amazingly brilliant. From
time has been vicious.
Time has been the same to all of us. Isn't it? That's the truth of the matter.
Well, you know what I can't figure out is when you post pictures of one, I had long hair everywhere. Now, I did have a mullet at some point in time, like every child of the 80s. But then at some point, I just grew it all out. But now you can't even have long hair in a ponytail. Oh, nice mullet. It's like, listen, ass paste. Long hair is long hair. Mullet's a mullet. But let's not just jump right to Mulletsville. It's because you were swimming around in your dad's yam pouch when we were sporting that proud do. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's a mullet. Sorry, pal. Long hair.
It's a different thing. What do they say?
Business up front, party in the back. I remember specifically asking a haircutstress back then. Listen, I want it short up here, okay? And I want it long and back. We didn't know it was called a mullet. I just wanted to be like what I thought Ron Wood looked like in Faces. But, that was a weird thing altogether. That was like have your sister cut your hair and see what happens while you're on smack. Not that I'm judging. Vitamin H. Never mind. Where were we going?
Was that the 70s or the 80s?
Yeah, well, there was that.
Yeah. Could have been either, couldn't it? Let's be honest. All right. So look, we've got lots to talk about before we get into some music. You have got a guitar that we haven't talked about. You've got an amplifier that we haven't talked about. And we also want to talk about the Gristle King, among other things. This video will be not out by the time you finished your UK dates, unfortunately.
That's all right.
Anything after that we should talk about? You've got US dates coming up or European dates or anything like that?
Well, as always, just go to the website, gregkoch.com. It is the keeper of secrets.
Okay.
I always, when people go, do you have any instructional material? I go, if only there was a device that you could hold in your hands and magically ask queries and it would blather back a variety of different options for you. So I always have to tell, just go to the website.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all there. The dates, the stuff.
It's so interesting you mentioned instructions. So Simon, who is our producer and behind the camera, said that his first memory of you is via VHS, which this could get weird. VHS videotape. No, but instructional videos.
That's correct.
From back in the day.
Yeah, from Hal Leonard. Yeah, absolutely.
So you did that. So when was that? When you remember when you did the first one?
The first one was done in 2002, maybe. I think.
Okay, so relatively recently.
Yeah, not too long ago.
See, my first memory of you is this video from... We're playing first memory of Greg now.
Yeah.
There was this video of you playing with Joe Bonamassa.
Aha!
And just blew my mind. And I think I hounded you on all the socials about when you're coming to the UK, because I was really keen to see you. But yeah, that was... been following you ever since. It's been a journey.
An excursion.
Mine would be NAMM Show, I think. Because you had a long association with Fender.
I did indeed.
And you always seem to be at the Fender booth.
Yes.
Doing good things there.
Doing various things. And we were hanging out at Abbey Road one time. Remember that?
No way.
It was a Fender custom shop event.
Yeah. Blimey, O'Reilly.
That was so wild being in there. Like, well, we're just hanging out at Abbey Road, as you do.
Yeah, like you do. Yeah, I do.
That would have been 15-ish, maybe?
Yeah.
10, 12, somewhere in there. It was a while ago.
Oh, man, time. So what's your first memory of you?
Well, that's a tawdry tale. Well, I'll tell you what, I started doing the Fender thing, and people ask, how did you get hooked up with Fender? How did a mutant like you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin hook up with the biggest guitar manufacturer? I'm like, because I practiced, dipshit. No, I don't say that. I'm sorry, are we not supposed to swear?
We can say the S word, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just letting my freak flag fly a little bit here. I'm out on the road. I've had English breakfast every damn day. I got those beans and those bangers and those mushrooms coursing through my system. Anything could happen.
Are you going to Scotland or Wales on this trip?
We went to Scotland earlier on.
Because in Scotland it's called a Scottish breakfast, right? It's the exact same thing, pretty much, but in Scotland it's a Scottish breakfast.
I did have one there.
Did you?
And it was epic. Although I avoid the
blood
black
sausage.
pudding. Yeah. That is forbidden. I'm just going to say it. What is it? I don't know. I don't want to know.
Haggis? Do you have any haggis?
No, I have never experienced the haggis.
Yeah.
Haggis is good.
It's just slightly less grim than on the grim. Anyway.
But we were talking about Fender. Yeah, so my band, I always wanted to have my own band, always wanted to do my own tunes, and always just wanted, I did sessions and whatnotery, and I can certainly, as I like to say, play well with others. If I'm backing someone up, I play nice, but I always wanted to have my own band. I always wanted to do my own thing. So, and especially because we weren't cookie cutter that fitted, this is a blues band, even though we always got lumped into Bluesville, but that always made the blues purists upset. As they get, the bluesier than thou people. Yeah. And not that I'm judging again, but folks are folks. And
too many chords for blues.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were playing at actually I was working at a music store at the time during the day and playing out at night and sporting a mullet. No, actually then it was the long hair, sorry. And a guy from Fender came in. The local rep came in with a legendary Fender figure by the name of Don Johnson, who had been with Fender since God knows when. He looked exactly like Carl Perkins, and he worked it too. He always had the bolo and the cowboy boot, and he had the hair that, was it hair? I don't know, but it looked like, Carl Perkins, and he had the shaded, glasses and whatnot. And he heard me playing a guitar, and he came over, he goes, do you play in a band? I go, indeed I do. As a matter of fact, we're playing out tonight. You should come on down. So he did, and saw this band I was playing. I was playing there 2 nights in a row. The first night was kind of an all-star, kind of local all-star thing, and he came up to me afterwards. He goes, we should write you up in that Fender Frontline magazine. I go, that'd be wicked. And then the very next day, a guy named Jack Schwartz, who traveled around for Fender all over the world and did all kinds of stuff for him, he was coming into town to do a clinic, and the Fender rep's like, we got to go see this guy down at this bar. And he's like, yeah, just what I want to do when I'm on the road after I do a clinic is to go out and see a guitar player. But he said, look, you got to go. He said, I'll have one beer. Well, he stayed all night and then bought every one of the tapes that we had, because back then we had tapes.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And so he bought the tapes and he passed them around, and then it just kind of built from there. And then they had me. My first clinic ever was in Chicago at a place called Gand Music, and that was in 1994, I believe.
Wow.
And that was also a cool one too, because it was my first Fender clinic, and Gary Gand came up to me and he's like, "Do you do sessions?" And I go, "Well, I've done some sessions back home." He goes, "No, do you do sessions down in Chicago?" Because at that point in time, Chicago was like a place where a lot of the ad agencies were located, so a bunch of jingle work was going on there. And you could make a pretty decent living just doing sessions day in and day out if that was your thing. And he goes, "I know some people down here that do sessions. I'll have them give you a call." And, when people say that to you, you're like, yeah, whatever. 2 days later, I get a call, and they said, "Hey, be down here Thursday, such and such a time, yada, yada, yada." And I went down, and my first session, I go in. Luckily, I knew the guy that was playing pedal steel, but it was like the room was filled with people, and one of them was Howard Levy, who we just saw at the airport in Frankfurt, but the guy from Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, and he was playing mandolin and harmonica on the date. And anyways, it was intimidating as hell, but it went well, and they called me the next day, and I started doing a bunch of sessions. So that 1994 was a good year. The Fender thing started doing sessions, and I'll never forget the first time my in-laws actually kind of looked at me with a little bit more than, like, oh my God, who did our daughter marry? Was when we were up for Christmas. I think it was that year, and I had played on an Oldsmobile commercial, and it was just like congas and my guitar in the car, And I go, "Oh, I played on that one." I'm like, "Really?" And then suddenly, I wasn't such a jamoke anymore. Jamoke, #loser. Okay, so that was great. So I started doing the Fender thing, and I always looked at it as a way to, I enjoyed playing the guitars, certainly, the legacy, obviously, and then looked at it as a way to forward my musical career. And then as I started to reproduce, I was more worried about, how am I going to provide house, hearth, food, transportation, clothing for a variety of offspring? So then it became a little bit more substantive as far as a big part of what I did. And then I got hooked up with Hal Leonard right around the same time.
Okay, that was then.
So, when you're just playing in the band and letting the good times roll, that's one thing. But then as soon as you got to make the grown-up currency, then you have to figure out a way to be able to, well, you guys know what I'm talking about. You got to do what you got to do. But I love everything I get to do, and I've always loved it. And that's why I think that it's gone pretty well, is that it's like, hey, you know what? You're going to end up doing these videos. Really? Well, what's that all about? Well, I like that. So most of the things that have done, really well for me, I never would have thought of in the first place, but I was just open to it, and I enjoy it. I never leave the house going, oh my God, I got to go play guitar somewhere. This sucks. I dig it. So I love what I get to do, and it's all going all right. So I can't complain.
Because a great many people will know you from those videos,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Of all the things I've done over the years, so Fender thing, Hal Leonard thing, got the first record deal with Steve Vai's thing, and then ended up doing the Mascot deal, and traveling over, doing all the stuff that you do.
Favored Nations,
Favored Nations,
was that. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then of course and then I had articles in a bunch of different guitar magazines over the years where I either, of course the press ones, but also I had columns in different magazines and so on and so forth. All that stuff was great, fantastic, but all of a sudden I started doing these videos, and it is exponential, the amount of exposure from the videos.
Sure.
Because, I'm basically just playing whatever comes into my head and being a wise ass. And then I'm playing these iconic instruments,
Yeah.
And it just was something that I couldn't have scripted.
I've got a couple of questions about those videos. Well, the first thing is, if it's a Friday night and I've had a beer, I like nothing more than putting on the outtakes of those. Well, I think this is the 10th or 11th outtake videos now up, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And they are just perfection.
Where can people find these videos?
Well, wildwoodguitars.com is the website, but the Wildwood channel on YouTube is where all this stuff is uploaded. And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
Please go there. It's an education.
It really is. But I wanted to ask you, because you've played so many great guitars over the years, and like the Wildwood guitars especially, I know that they spec them. They have their own spec for those guitars that come through.
Yep.
And is there something consistent that you find in these guitars that, because you've played so many of them, that there's a consistency where you find a good one? Is there a consistency with the weight? Is there a consistency with the pickups?
Well, I will say that what Wildwood did, I mean, Steve Mesplay, the owner of Wildwood, guy's, not only is he a great musician, he's a great guy, but the guy's wicked smart,
Right.
and he figured out early on that in order to differentiate his store from anybody else, he had to have unique instruments that were available. So he realized right away, I think the first company he did with was Taylor, actually, where he said, well, what if we did this kind of wood with this kind of, all the different specs that he dictated? They said, no problem, as long as you buy X amount. And he pre-sold them before he even got them, and then he was like, well, this is effective. And then, so he started doing the thing with Fender, and this was back when it was, you couldn't get the I hope I'm not stepping on too many toes here, but the dogma was don't do a custom shop reissue of a 52 Tele or a 63 Strat and have the unmitigated audacity to have a flatter radius and taller frets. And he's like, no, we want that. Well, we're not going to do that. We said, well, I'll buy X amount and we'll do these things. And they called them Wildwood 10. So the Wildwood 10 thing is, there's 10 things about the guitar. I can't remember what all the 10 things are, but certain weights, they have to be a certain weight. Thin finish, certain pickups that they're wound to their specification, courtesan necks, so on and so forth.
Right.
And people just went crazy, bought them hand over fist. And same thing with Gibson. There was a lot of things that Gibson Custom Shop, they weren't doing that Wildwood wanted done. So they gave him a little recipe. They called that Wildwood Specs. And those guitars, what's kind of hard to believe is I'm playing these guitars, and I'm obviously, when you're playing all these gorgeous instruments, you're like, wow, this one's kind of nice. I think I might want this one. And they're like, what's the cost on this one? You're like, holy caramba. And these guitars are flying out the door. Wow. I don't know. Bless them all. You know what I mean? And people dig. I mean, and they are fantastic. And as you know, there's people like, well, I've got a Classic Vibe and it's every bit as good. It's like, Classic Vibe's a great guitar, but statistically speaking, when you're talking about woods and construction and materials as far as pickups to the woods, to the whole 9 yards, to of what's used to lacquer and so on and so forth, mathematically speaking, the more expensive guitars sound and play better and look better.
Right. I think I just heard the internet explode.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Well, and here's the other thing is, if you have a guitar that you love the way it plays and it sounds great, then you're
right.
done.
Yeah,
so whatever inspires you. If you got the extra Scalota and you want to buy one of these glorious instruments, you go. If you don't, and you want to get something that plays good, sounds good, inspires you to play, there you go.
It's probably a nice way to start talking about this then.
Yes.
So I've seen you play Teles. I mean, you're at home with Teles, and you've got this gorgeous 53,
right?
Which I've seen you play a lot, which sounds incredible. And now you've teamed up with Reverend to produce your own wooden Offspring.
Right. Well, there were things I wanted done on a guitar, and obviously with my affiliation with Fender, you thought it would have been done in that environment. But over the year, I mean, there's different people that run the company there. They've got different priorities. No harm, no foul. It was a great ride. I still have a bunch of friends there and so on and so forth. But I actually hooked up with Fishman in regard to the Fluence pickups.
Right.
And that's where it all started, really.
Right.
And which is kind of a humorous tale, because I was never a huge... I was never a person that would have a guitar and try 15 different sets of pickups till I found the right one. So I bought a guitar and it sounded good. We're done.
Yeah.
The only thing is the conundrum of, okay, well, you have that one guitar that you have your noiseless pickups in that is kind of your utility guitar that you bring with you, and you might encounter any number of different, hazards. You know what I mean? 60 cycle quagmires and so on and so forth. But when you play that guitar versus your vintage instrument or something like that, you're kind of like, boom, 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 boom. It's kind of like, it's serviceable. Again, as long as you don't play it next to the other one, you're fine.
That's what we said, wasn't it? Never A. We were talking about Leslie's earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Never AB, never AB.
Exactly. When you AB, then that's when you start Charlie Browning, right? Yeah. So when I was talking to the Fishman folks, and they were talking about, the three things, I've said this story a million times, but the three things I wanted was a guitar pickup that sounded preferable to whatever else and was noiseless. You know, when I said that originally to the Fender guys, like, well, what do you mean we have noiseless pickups? I'm like, I know, and they're great, but I want a pickup that you want to use first and foremost.
Sure.
And then is noiseless. And then I want whatever has been used to get rid of the noise, not, you know, sometimes, you know, they have beaks and fangs and got, you know, pumps and steam and whatever else. And I just want it to look normal, you know? Especially a Tele neck pickup. It's a classic looking thing, you know? And then I want some kind of incremental boost on the guitar. Not something as extreme as a Clapton preamp, you know, 24 dBs, you know. I don't need all of that, but I want a little something where I can press a button like this, spoidle, and get something that's a little hotter, a little beefier. You know, just in case you want to take it over the edge.
And what does it do? What is it?
Okay, so there's two different voices on board. The first voice, kind of like what they call a white guard telly, but basically it's a more open, brighter tone, a little more glassy. Turn down the volume, don't lose any height. That's the reason why we went with all the other Fishman Fluence pickups. You engage the second voice by a push-pull pot on the tone control, but because I like to do all that kind of tone control malfeasance, I didn't want any of that kind of utility being compromised or mitigated by any kind of push-pullery. Wait a minute. So Larry Fishman's like, hey, I got a push button that'll work, and it fits right handy-dandy in between the two controls, so that's what I use to engage. And off to the races you go. And so it comes with all of the stuff. So it comes with the pickups. It comes with this control panel, which has everything in it to keep it quiet, to change the voices. And in order to do everything that it does, there is a battery involved, which initially I was like, I don't want a battery in my damn guitar. But they're like, look, we've got a lithium-ion battery. You charge up with your phone charger. For an hour and a half charge, you get 300 hours of plugged-in playing time. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Well, that's not even a thing.
That'll do.
So the input jack also has a little mini USB input, so you plug it in, a little red light goes on that says, I'm taking of the juice. And then green's like, I'm full. And then you're ready to rock for 300 hours of pagan rockcraft in your future. So in exchange for that, you get totally noise-free pickups, you get two voices, and every one of the pickup sets sounds the same because of the materials that are used, because it's not wound pickups. So as I say, there's no longer the witchcraft of, Sachiko wound these on a Wednesday afternoon at 1:15. She had a delicious Grecian lunch that day, and there was oregano and oil and garlic on her hands, and I think she had a couple of lagers, and as a result, she went a couple more times than usual. That's why my pickups are the best, as spoken by some mutant in his parents' basement, slathered in peanut butter and his Scooby-Doo jammies, yelling at his mom for more meatloaf. Listen! I'm glad your pickups are great, but how about the rest of us? These pickups sound great in any guitar you get. You know what I'm saying? While I say all that, I'm not judging anybody. I want to make that clear.
A couple of questions. How many guitar companies do you say no to every day? Like your inbox must be like, please come work with us. Please come and work with us.
Well, you know what's really weird is that you'd be surprised. I mean, it's surprised how many people get the joke. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like they always think that, you know, there's going to be some blues fetus that's going to save the guitar industry.
Where did you get the term blues fetus? We used to use that on Guitarist magazine, and I'm not going to even go any further than that.
Well, you know, what was funny is that Steve Lukather actually said it, and then I said, well, that's funny because I always had this joke about the next blues star is going to be In Utero Slim.
That's for Steve.
Who's going to be a child in utero slim, 9th trimester, the lead through the belly button, you know, playing the hit song "Dust My Womb." Can you dig it? And then where do you go from there? The animal community, you know, what's going to be a plant blues star? You know, Slim Bean McCoy, you know, with the vegetation blues. It just never ends. And that's all well and good. And if it's, you know, getting young people to play, I get it all. But you know what? You can appreciate all members of the human community that are playing. Not, there might be some guy who's never seen the light of day, or some gal, or whatever the case may be, that might be 170 years old playing blues with great authority because they've been wearing Depends for 70 years, you know what I'm saying? They can't see, they can't hear, they have no control of their bowels. That's the blues, okay, kids? Sorry your lunch money got stolen by some bully, but if you're... Never mind. It's not worth it. Try Geritol sometime, sonny boy. Oh, wow. This is going awry.
It's literally like standing in a hurricane. Okay, question 2. Question 2 was, what is the switch? Is it actually a preamp?
There is a preamp on board.
Yeah.
So the coil itself is made. There was some aerospace guy that was a guitar player that was working all the time with these really thin circuit boards. And he thought, you know what if you printed a coil on the circuit board and then stacked those up instead of actual windings, and then you would have the perfect template to make it sound whatever you want. So there are magnets in there. So it's just a regular coil that's made out of this substance. But on its own, it's a little anemic. It's just kind of a blank canvas. So you need a preamp to address it to make it sound the way that you want. But the point is you can make them sound any way that you want.
Yeah, right.
So there's 2 voices in there, and we got it kind of in the ballpark. And what was cool about the process of voicing them is that they had a shuttle guitar, a telly that was routed out with 2 quarter-inch things on each side of the pickup. So we were able to pop the actual regular wound pickups out and then put the Fluence version in. And then in real time, we were attached to... there's a bunch of MIT talent at Fishman, so they had some flux capacitor discombobulator program that right on the spot, they're like, and they just kind of went like this until we got them to, by the time we were done voicing them, I preferred the sound of these pickups over the regular conventional pickups. Because we could A-B, in the same guitar in real time. You know what I mean? So it was really exciting. So the pickups came out, and I was like, well, the pickups are out. Maybe I'll talk to my music friends over at Fender Musical Instruments. And let's just say that they were friendly as always, but not interested. So then I was going to do a thing where, I was playing that red telly last time I saw you guys. Custom, it's a Wildwood 1055 telly with the Fishman Fluence pickups. It was a bad mamma jammer. And I was playing that a bunch. And then I had my 53 telly. And then we were thinking about, maybe we'll do a run at Wildwood where we'll do like custom shop versions of those instruments. And so that was kind of in the air, that we would do a version of the red telly with my pickups in it, and then maybe like a custom shop version of the 53. And then I've been buddies with the Reverend guys forever, and we were kind of shooting the breeze. And actually at one point I was going to do something with Trevor Wilkinson with Fret King, because they were buddies with the Fishman folks, and Trevor made me a guitar that I used and I loved. And then he made me a prototype, which I really dug, but he doesn't handle the business side of things. And when we started talking about the business side of things, remember I said people don't get it. We're going to just end it there. So I decided not to do it because, it just didn't work out. Right.
Yep.
So then more time went by. Ken from Reverend and I are shooting the breeze because he would come out and do video shoots all the time at Wildwood. We always got along really well. He's about my size. He also has 4 kids. He lives in the Midwest. He's deranged. We get along great. And so he said, listen, Joe Naylor and I would love to do something with you. No pressure because we're buddies, but if it ever made sense to do something, let me know. So Reverend always has these fun parties at NAMM, at Summer NAMM and at Winter NAMM. They're always having these damn parties. I'm like, I want to play at a party in NAMM. So he's like, well, you can play the party, but what guitar would you play? I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, would you be cool with putting some of my pickups in one of those Pete Anderson Eastsiders? And I'll play that. And so he's like, yeah, sure, have Fishman send me the pickups. So Fishman sent him my pickups and also some of their classic humbuckers, which are fantastic. Anyway, so he set me up with this glorious Eastsider, and I started playing that guitar, and I was like, my God, the intonation on this thing is great. It stays in tune. I can treat it like a farm animal. And it just kind of says, bring it, player. You know what I mean? It takes it all. And then I thought, this guitar is not, there's not thousands of dollars difference between this and my red instruments.
Yeah.
So then I started to go, the wheel started spinning a little bit. And then Ken asked me to come out to Toledo, where Reverend is located. Delicious hot dog place there, by the way, but that's a separate story. So I came out there and did some videos with Ken. We called it the Ken and Greg Show, where we just kind of grabbed a bunch of the different guitars they had, and I'm playing all these different guitars, and like, there's really cool, like, ergonomic little weird twists on classic designs, but the iconic manufacturers could never do because their heads would explode, right? So I was just kind of like, well, if you grab this thing and that, so I was like, I could leave here with 5 guitars for what it would take me to buy one of one of these other instruments that I'm playing all the time. So then I started rolling around in the brain a little bit, and I said, Ken, what if we did a guitar where we made the body a little bit bigger? You know, because I said this many times to the Fender folks. I go, listen, I'm not the only one that's big and guitars look like ukuleles on. How many times I got to hear it? People go, is that a 3/4 size instrument? I have the Wildwood video. Is that a smaller guitar? No, it's not. I'm just big, okay? Leave me alone. So I wanted something that was a little bit larger. And I remember saying to the Fender folks, I should make like the Mancaster. Make it a little bit bigger. See, and it's just ever so slightly larger.
It didn't make any... I didn't really realize this until this happened. Dan, just play that for like 3 seconds. Now Simon will do a really clever quick cut.
Yes.
See, now, because it's on Dan,
It looks bigger.
it looks bigger.
Yes. Right. But on me, it looks right size. And it's not too big that it doesn't fit in regular guitar cases. You know, so none of those problems are at hand. So they fit in regular cases and all that other kind of stuff.
I didn't realize it was bigger, actually, when I
How much
saw
bigger actually is it? You said about 3%? No,
Yeah.
more than that.
It's very subtle.
That's very subtle.
It is very subtle, but yet that subtlety manifests
Yes.
much more.
Yes. And we wanted to keep the weight down, obviously, because I like light guitars. All of these guitars are a little over 7 pounds. So you see this middle section's kind of raised. I had this funky guitar that I bought from a gentleman out in California, Ventura County Guitars. He had this cool guitar at the Dallas Guitar Show, which was a Firebird body with a Tele bolt-on neck and Tele controls. And I was playing it in one of my Orange Room diluted caffeinated ramblings one day on Facebook. And Joe Naylor saw it and he said, well, as long as we make the body bigger, how would you like a raised section like the other guitar of yours? I said, that would be really cool. So it actually works as weight relief because the raised section is actually the traditional width of a regular T-style guitar.
Right.
Oh, no way.
And everything else is recessed. So it just gives you, it's a little bit of weight relief there. And then I wanted the Wilkinson bridge on it I like the 3 brass saddles. They just seem to have a little bit more twang-a-lang-a. And then I like the neck on the Eastsider, but I wanted just a little bit more width to it. So it's just slightly larger, and it's a compound radius, 10 to 14 inch, and it's got 6105 frets and the locking tuners. And the roasted maple thing I really dig because it just, especially living in Wisconsin where it's a winter hellscape there right now. They're getting 6 inches of snow today, and it's early November, right?
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah.
It's not even nearly Thanksgiving. We're
Yeah, exactly.
miles away
And
from
it shouldn't be snowing yet, and it is. So anyways, I take this guitar. I went to Jamaica last year. I went from what they called the polar vortex. It was like 20 below zero back home. And then I went to Jamaica, and then I went back, and the neck never moved. There was no weirdness. You know what I mean? So I think, and of course, the internet's probably going to go, there's no difference. But I think because they roast and get all the moisture out, they're less likely to move.
Yeah. There is no difference between this matchstick and the best piece of swamp ash you've ever heard. There is literally no difference. They sound exactly the same.
Wow.
When you make a guitar out of them, you know that, right?
Well, what's interesting too is I've said this before, is like, I've played a lot of guitars.
Yeah, right.
A lot. And you can hear the difference. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So either it's a universal delusion or it's real. And then you might say this is all a universal delusion. So what does it matter? Am I right or am I right? Are we even here? Probably not.
I think if you did a philosophy YouTube channel, it would
Oh, man.
have 20 million subscribers.
Me and Eckhart Tolle. Ever watch those videos where he starts off and he just sits like this? Welcome to spaciousness. That's my favorite word, spaciousness. That's what I search for every damn day. Spaciousness, y'all. Get it. What were we talking about?
I think spaciousness leads us quite nicely to reverb. So,
Yes.
I bought a guitar off a chap recently in the east of England, a Fender Stratocaster, a black Fender Stratocaster. I walked into the house to do the deal, and what should he have there?
Ah,
Yeah,
had one of my amps.
yeah, indeed. So it has your name on the front.
This is a funny story. So, I've known about the Koch amps for years. They say Koch.
They say Koch.
That
yeah.
isn't correct.
Is Edwin still there?
Edwin is still there.
Excellent. Edwin Cool.
Yeah, which is the greatest name ever.
Yeah.
Edwin Cool. And Dolph Koch is kind of the same thing as Reverend. Joe Naylor was the original designer and so on and so forth. He's still there being the designer and doing all the things he's really good at, and then somebody else handles the business. Same thing with Koch now. Is Edwin does the business, and Dolph Koch makes all the amps. So I was at a music messa probably 7 years ago-ish, as time flies, and I was there for Fishman, actually. And right across the way was the Koch booth. And actually, Dolph and his wife came over, and they said, we're big fans of yours. We got a couple of your CDs, yada, yada, yada. I said, that's funny, because I've played a couple of your amps, and I really, really liked them. And I thought, wouldn't that be funny if we worked together, right? And then I did like a little picture next to a stack of their amps, and like the internet had a hernia of some sort. You have your own amp company? I'm like, yeah, no. And so then they let me use one of their Twin Tone 3 amps, and I really liked it. It did a lot of the stuff that I had to when I used to use a Fender Supersonic, I would do a thing where I would jump a lead from the send and the return, and then boost the signal a little bit. It wasn't using the effects loop as conventional effects loop. I was just using it as a boost, because on the foot pedal you had the effects loop thing, and so I could get the clean sound, and of course there's 2 different clean sounds out amp, and then I could hit that button, get an extra little boost, and same thing for the lead channel. Well, that's what all the Koch amps come with anyway. There's like a rhythm and lead volume. So you can set the clean sound as it is, and then like a boost, a set boost, lead sound, gain boost, and then another boost on top of that. So it's all this really cool ability to just kind of control everything from your feetsies and your hands. So I was really into it, and we started shooting the breeze. I started using the amp on the home front, and they said, what if we did an amp together, what would we do? And I think originally Edwin thought I was probably high on crack, which I wasn't. But I said, I like amps with 210s. I like combos with 210s, and they thought I was insane. I was like, listen, the Vibrolux is perhaps the greatest amp of all time. And I like the sound of 10s, and if you build the cabinet right, it has plenty of low ends, and you get the focus of the 210s, and life is fantastic. And they're like, okay, what else? I said, well, I like the clean sound. Let's leave that alone. But instead of having just a generic boost on it, I'd like the ability to hair it up a little bit. And so they had this OTS circuit, which I guess some other companies have done too, which is a 1/2 watt power amp tube that you can overdrive and then add to either channel as like a little boosty thing. And then on the lead channel, I set it so it's a nice little slightly overdriven sound, and then there's a gain boost that's a preset gain boost you can hit, and then I can hit that OTS on top of that again. And when I do that, it actually sounds like a fuzz if I attach that to the lead channel. And then I wanted a 3-button reverb. I wanted the dwell, the tone, and the mix, because like the old reverb tanks. And then I wanted harmonic vibrato, because that's my favorite. The old Brown era, you know what I mean? It sounds glorious. The only thing that's maybe on par with it is, of course, the real magnetone.
Yeah.
And so they made it all happen. They delivered, and I said, I want it sonic blue. And they're like, really? No one's going to buy that. I'm like, kids. And so they made it all happen. And so it's been, I literally, usually I go to gigs and I bring a chord, this amp, and we're done. And because, I just like more, especially when I'm playing with Toby with the organ, you don't really need much else. You just need the guitar to cut through and do its thing. So I don't really need to worry about atmospheric stuff so much in this particular lineup. So I just go kind of straight in.
Yeah, we see your extensive pedal board on the floor.
Yes. So anyway, I got the reverb off right now. I got the reverb a little juicy right now. If I hit that OTS on top of it here, sound with the OTS engaged. Or like blackfacey. I should say these are EL34s in here, but it sounds very Fendery. You know what I mean? But it has the squish of. I should also mention that it's on the half power mode right now, so it's on 25 watts. You can either 25 or 50, right? So that reverb is luscious and juicy. So, there's some folks that would just be at home there. You know what I mean? Clean sound with that OTS boost. But if I go to the lead channel, well, let me hit the vibrato so you can hear what that sounds like. Ooh, it does make a little noise, but hey, what are you going to do? There's a price to be paid.
Absolutely beautiful.
That
It sounds good.
absolutely awesome. Is it? Do you know how they achieve that?
They own. Well, what Dolph said, what was very interesting is that under usual circumstances, the reason why Fender stopped doing it is because you needed 3 tubes to do it. He figured out to do it with 2. So,
Cool.
So it is a tube driven thing. It's just that he figured out a way to make it less tubey.
First time I've ever seen like a bunch of ordinary stuff that you would expect on the front of an amplifier, and then some other things on the top. So all your reverb and trems on the top.
Yeah, all the fun stuff's on the top.
That's so cool. It really does sound killer. That OTS thing, you say that's an extra tube, just doing a bit of extra hair, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. And I've got the volume and the gain maxed. So the only thing that's a little tricky when you're using the amp is that there's, on the front of the amp are just your standard amp controls, your 3 EQ and then the gain and the volume. You got to make sure that you don't drive those channels too much that when you hit that it's not a gain. You know what I mean? So I have to find the sweet spot where when I hit the OTS, it's a boost above where I have the channel set. But it's not rocket science. You can figure it out pretty quick.
That's lovely.
It is really lovely because so many amp companies go for that kind of overdriven Fender sound, and it often just ends up sounding a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit kind of like, like super reverb on 6 kind of.
Right, which is, yeah.
Yeah, whereas that...
It's beautiful. And that's 10s.
That's 10s, yep.
Can we just do a little experimentalization,
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind hearing your guitar a little bit.
Oh, yes.
And I'll just plug a Strat through it just for a second. We probably won't get to...
Behold.
We probably won't get to see one of these for another little while, so... What are your impressions, Dan? That's him sat there, by the way. Sorry, I'm going to do it in a minute.
Add the OTS to that. Try a little bit of that sweet vibrato.
That is...
Spirit of Greg is flowing.
Nicely done.
That is delicious.
I think you're feeling that.
I really am.
I was going to play the old strap, but let's hear some humbuckers.
Yes.
If you'll forgive me.
All good. Yes.
Apologies to all. Wow.
Right?
Never knew it did all that
Other stuff.
gain.
Yep.
Sorry, it's a bit weird playing in front of Greg, but we're all friends, hopefully.
Yes. That's
So
wild, right?
Can we just
Unreal.
hear how silent those pickups are then? Because
Yes.
the red was buzzing.
That's going to happen anyway. But there. It's a beastly creature.
That's
He's
fantastic.
done an amazing job. Amazing job. 210s
2
we
10s.
spoke about, didn't
Crazy.
we? Blimey, really.
So, extending on from your gain sounds, you've got the Gristle King,
Yes.
which is your pedal. Sorry, who makes this?
Tim Yarnig. My buddy Tim Yarnig has been making them for years. He also makes the culmination pedal for Jeff Coleman, and that Lukather likes to use. Every time Lukather does a gear thing, poor Tim gets inundated with more orders than he can handle.
Yes.
So we've been doing the Gristle King. I went to college with Tim at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. Beautiful.
What did you do at college?
I drank a lot of beer. Security. We got an 09er in progress. I studied jazz guitar.
Yeah, I was
course
gonna,
you did. Of
I
course
was
you
gonna
did.
ask you because your harmony knowledge is awesome.
Well, thank you. But I went to school. I didn't want to be, I had no interest in being someone that knew every standard and could reharmonize them and a million different things and was going to that wasn't my thing. I just wanted to be able to be conversant
Sure.
in music, but be able to read it to a professional level-ish, and to be able to certainly write it. And I wanted to know how to deal with chord changes should they arise. And so that's why I went to school. My dad was very much, my dad was a lawyer, and so he was very concerned about my musical exploits, and so he wanted to make sure if I was going to do it that I would be as knowledgeable as possible. Although he did have discussions with each one of my instructors on the way, including my college professor, saying, "Would you please tell him how it really is? Tell them what a struggle and what a hellscape the music business is." I'm like, "Dad, they're in the music business. You're telling them their life is hell." And so they would all say the same thing. And they'd say, "Listen, it's really hard, and you end up getting married, and then you got to figure out a way to make ends meet, and you're gone all the time, and it's very hard on the family. But that being the same, I wouldn't do anything different." They all said the same thing.
Right.
And then, of course, in my young delusion, I'm looking at them the whole time. I'm seeing their lips move, and I go, "Yeah, but I'm special, just like we were all special."
Right.
I like to say, I'm special, all right, just like everybody else, And then anyway, so yeah, I went to school for music. I did not graduate, which horrified my parents. But it was a jazz guitar performance, and I was playing all the time. And to spend more time in this rural community in central Wisconsin was not something I was willing to do anymore. But what was funny is that years later, my son went to school at a school in Minneapolis. And they actually asked me to be an instructor there, a professor at a music college. And I did it because they made me an offer I couldn't understand. I mean, they basically said, "Look, we need someone to teach a class that's kind of a survey of styles. You need to know how to play, be able to reference a bunch of different playing styles, and then also know the oral history of it and be able to communicate that, and so on and so forth." And they're like, "Yeah, we need you 2 days a week." I said, I have to do everything else I do because I have to, actually pay the mortgage and stuff like that. They said, "Well, we can make it Mondays and Tuesdays." And I'm like, "Well, that's better." I said, "But I travel a lot." "Well, we'll work around your schedule, but Mondays and Tuesdays it is. And we'll put you on full salary, or at least a salary, and benefits, and your kid goes to school for free." I'm like, "We're done here. It sounds good." So I did it for a year, but that was my favorite thing when my dad would go, "Always disappointed me that you didn't finish school." And I said, "Dad, I taught college. I think I won. I think victory was achieved." So I did that for a year. And then when my son decided not to go there anymore, I really enjoyed coming up with the curriculum, learning cool things and explaining it. But just the idea of music school is just so hard. I mean, it's like these youngsters come in there and you're like, they have no idea what awaits them. And then when they're not prepared for class, I mean, it's like, listen, music is sacred. If there's one thing that's the best, regardless of all the other poop and schmelling you will encounter, is that music is fantastic. So if you don't come in here loving music and wanting to just suck up as much as you can, regardless of the outcome that you think it's going to have, that you're going to be some kind of meteoric star, whatever the case may be, honor the jams.
Here.
And they would come in and they would be unprepared, and they would not know their stuff. And I'd be like, well, and I only lost it with them once each semester, only one time. And I've got a long fuse. And one day I just finally said, guys, you are embarking on a career that is almost impossible to succeed in under the best of circumstances. Wow. And none of you are the best of circumstances. I'm sorry to say. And do you think that made him like, holy we got to get our act together? They were like, what? I'm like, okay. And so my soul could only handle it for a period of time. So my heart goes out to everyone that teaches primarily for their living, because you love it so much. You love the jams. You're so excited to share it with somebody. And when that is not reflected, it takes its toll. Am I right?
Yeah, right. Look, I just have one more question about that whole learning side of things, because I'm starting to get more involved in the harmony and things myself. When you guys set up and started playing before, whenever we hang out with you, we're always in tears of laughing. You have this ability to bring joy to people.
Right? Oh, well, thank you.
It's wonderful. But that comes across when you play as well.
Yep.
And it's so, I mean, there are just some lines and things that you pull out, and it's amazing, because that part of your personality you can actually project through your playing. Now, is that something that being like knowing all that harmony, knowing all the stuff, does that help you to be able to do that?
Well, there are certain things. Yeah, it gives you more of a bigger grab bag to pull from.
Sure.
It makes it a little bit more interesting. But I just try to be as conversant in the moment as possible. Getting back to old Eckhart Tolle. Special. I tried to, bing.
You read that book too? Or you just listened to it?
I'm sorry?
He was in the now. He was totally in the
Sorry,
now.
It's fantastic.
I spoiled his now.
It's fantastic. The old Eckhart. I listen to him all the time, and I've read both those books. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I try to.
Eckhart Tolle, by the way.
Yes.
The Power of Now is what Greg's talking
And then
about.
the New Earth is the other one. But it's good. But when I teach, I do teach some Skype lessons. I don't advertise them a lot, but they just come in at a rate that I can kind of keep up with them when I have time to do it. And they're always a lot of fun, but typically people are like, listen, all I know is a pentatonic scale, and I'm really sick of playing the same old licks and so on and so forth. And I say, well, really, how much knowledge you have is irrespective of your ability to have a decent conversation.
Right.
So if you're able to... a lot of times getting a improvisation started with just kind of a call and response thing or some kind of sequential thing that you repeat, or it might be a pickup selection, or it might be a chicken pig or a pinch harmonic or whatever. You start this thing that builds off of what you just played. And that, if you know 3 notes, you can make a whole solo based on those 3 notes and not worry, because we're always thinking, at some point down the line, I'm going to make music that's worthwhile. It's like, no, all you have is the rights now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you use what you
That's
have
so good.
to have fun in the moment with the skill that you have, and you're not concerned about the outcome. You know what I mean? So that's a really hard thing for guitar players to get over. People in general, but music in general is like, I'm in the moment. I'm playing. I'm having a good time. Oh my God, so and so's here. I got to make sure. I got to make sure I play that money shot lick, because that, and if you can divorce your stuff in the moment, you can kind of see that thought kind of come in and just kind of go, and kick it to the curb.
Yep.
And then you're just kind of playing it, and you just kind of let the ideas go, and you might hit a wrong note. But then you can kind of, and as they say to the jazz player, take a wrong note and just kind of, but sometimes that's really a fun way to, sometimes I'll just pick like a random place on the neck and just start take a stab and then have to dig my way out, and there's no wrong answers. You know what I mean? There's I've gotten real kind of, it's all the same music. I don't care if it's like, probably a quote that people have heard from other people. I just kind of recently came across it. It was a buddy of mine was doing a session, and he's a great musician, but he's more of a self-taught guy, alternate tunings type of stuff, and kind of knows what he knows, but isn't real conversant with how to translate, especially those open chord voice, open tuning voicings to other people. And so he had these string players come in to do a session, and one of them was like this really well-renowned classical musician. The guy came in, and my buddy was just like, oh my God, I'm so intimidated to be around you. And the guy looked at him and he goes, it's all one music. What are you talking about? So he did not have any attitude about the fact that he was playing, the most sophisticated Western music of all time versus a folk thing. It's like, it's all the same. So that's why I don't, whether someone can play 50 notes or 2 notes, or, they play real blues, or it's like, all of that stuff, as old Eckhart would say, is just manifestations of egoic activity. You know what I mean? You try to divorce yourself from that stuff as much as possible and then just enjoy the music and the moment, and then it's sacred. It's the best. That's the thing with being a musician. If I give my advice about being a musician is I told my kids this, because both of my daughters wanted to go into theater. And I said, listen, the arts is the worst. As far as expectations versus reality.
Yep.
I said, but if you really love what you do, I said, let me put it this way. The love of what you do has to so far eclipse the BS you will encounter. And if you're willing to make that leap, that you think that your adoration for your craft and your love and your pursuit of it is so much so that it's going to eclipse the absolute cesspool of filth and disgust that you will encounter, then go ahead. But, if all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, this is horrible. This person got picked and they don't have it. I'm like, it's not a meritocracy. Rule number 1,
Right.
And so that's the thing. It's like, if you love it, then you can get through just about anything. And most of the time, all the stuff that I think, like, well, I'm going to really try to push this thing. And all this stuff I really try to push aren't the things that go. It's the thing I never thought of that comes from over here going, hey, you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And then boom, you know what I mean? You're like, okay, and then you just got to make yourself available, do the next right thing, be nice, and stuff lines up. I mean, it does not line up! I've been trying for years! Nothing lines up! Well, there we go.
So you come here for the fun and then you get a philosophy lesson. I knew we'd get there.
Well, there we go.
It's deep. It's deep. I feel it. Okay, we were going to talk about the Gristle King.
Yes.
We could talk about everything for the next 5 hours. Clearly, this could be a 10-hour show. I think we need to get a Gristle King, don't we? But
Yes,
you were telling us briefly, Greg, that you don't necessarily use that with this. It's something you'd use if you get provided with another amp you're not sure of.
Well, you guys know more than anybody else, since the name of the show is that nothing responds, especially when you want to kick an amp over the edge, than a pedal. Yeah. And on the first part of this tour, I was messing with the pedal. I was like, I got addicted to the pedal again because you're used to that, how that responds.
Yep.
I mean, just notes, different notes respond different to amp gain as opposed to pedal. It's weird, but it's a fact. So, but then I just went back to just using the amp because I just decided you know what, I'll just run the amp on 10 and then everything will be fine. And so that's what I did. But like if I do, you know, I'm flying in someplace, I don't know what I'm going to be using, I'll bring this pedal. I also have a triple Gristle version, but Tim can't make them anymore because there's like 3 pedals in one. It's an overdrive, it's a clean boost is what the Gristle King is, and the triple Gristle has a fuzz on it as well that really sounds good, and it's got a buffer on it. But he couldn't make them, and people were like a year later, like, where's my pedal? And we're like, oh my God! So we decided to step away from that one. So this is actually a version that we worked on with Fishman. So Fishman manufactures this for us. So I actually have these in quantity.
Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and I do from Tim's website, Tim Yarnig, I believe it's timyarnig.com. So you can Google it.
Yeah.
Or my website, gregkoch.com. I do signed ones from my website. So I got the clean sound on the amp. Here's the clean boot. Before, after, and I usually hit the gain on top. And away you go.
Real band frequencies, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's what gets you heard in a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, compared to someone's really fat, thick metal distortion, it might sound a little scratchy.
Right.
But in a band, it's like,
Yeah.
that's good. You're gonna
Boom. It's going to cut through the morass.
Speaking of which, I think we should probably maybe hear it a little bit. Get the boys in.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Should we do that?
Sounds good. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for the joy that you've brought to so many of us.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's honest, being, you know, watching you in the Orange Room for so many years, and it's honestly, it always, no matter what's going on in my day, it always picks me up.
Oh, well, thanks.
It's truly wonderful. So thank you so much. Okay. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Also, a massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderton's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
and in Australia.
Would be Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland.
Also, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon.
Thank you.
And also, if you haven't done so yet, head over to thatpedalshowstore.com. Grab yourself one of these
Nice t-shirt.
Nice t-shirts.
That nice t-shirt.
Yeah.
D&M drive.
D&M drive.
Journals, strings, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, thanks again for watching. Thank you again, Greg.
Pleasure.
Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye.